Greetings, mighty companions, and welcome to Practical and Healing Applications of A Course in Miracles with me, Anna Kujawa-Quinn. And we are going to begin our session like we often do with an opening meditation, where we just close our eyes and take a breath and allow our minds to come back home to the present moment, where we just breathe, let go of the day, let go of everything that is occupying our conscious mind. Allowing our minds to become quiet. Allowing our minds to become still. Allowing our minds to just rest from their ceaseless, seemingly ceaseless activity. Let us make a quiet place within us where the activities of the body cease to demand our attention. And breathe. We remind ourselves this moment is the only time there is. This moment now is the only time there is. Now. Tell your mind silently, thank you for doing all the tasks I assigned to you to do. Thank you. But now is the time that you need do nothing. Tell your mind, I need do nothing. All is here, all is done, all has been given and received, all has been accomplished, all has been forgiven and returned to love. I need do nothing. Here now. Remind yourself of your truth, the truth of your being. I am complete and healed and whole. For I remain exactly as love created me. And feel the fact, feel the truth of this. Enjoy that feeling of rest, deep rest of your mind, deep rest of your body, deep rest in your spirit. wait for heaven. Heaven is within you. Heaven is you now. All right, you guys. So, where we're at, I already did the never random number generator to find out where and what in the Course of Miracles that we were going to go and what Spirit chose for all of us. Today is in the teacher's manual, and the section is called Are Psychic Power, Are, quote, psychic powers desirable? Are psychic powers desirable? All right, everybody see it? Everybody got it? Okay, so you guys, teacher's manual. Question number 25. Are psychic powers desirable? Okay. All right, beautiful. So it says, the answer to this question is much like the preceding question. There are, of course, no unnatural powers. And it is obviously merely an appeal to magic to make up a power that does not exist. So, there are no unnatural powers. I love it. And to appeal to magic is to make up a power that doesn't exist. It is equally obvious, however, that each individual has many abilities of which they are unaware. That is what? That is equally obvious. There's no unnatural powers. Ooh, that's unnatural. That's weird. That's unnatural. No, there's no unnatural powers. And it's obvious that each individual has many abilities of which they are unaware. All right. So there are no unnatural powers, and we all have abilities of which we are unaware. Now, as our awareness of our many abilities increases, we may well develop abilities that seem quite startling to us. Yet nothing we can do can compare, even in the slightest, with the glorious surprise of remembering who you are. So let all your learning and all your efforts be directed toward this one great final surprise of remembering who you are, and then you won't be content to be delayed by the little abilities that may come to you on the way. I love that. So, beautiful. So we are going to be developing abilities that seem quite startling to us. And when and how are we going to be developing abilities that seem quite startling to us? That's as our awareness increases. As our awareness increases, as our awareness expands, then we're what? We're going to develop abilities that seem quite startling to us, but no startling ability that we develop as our awareness increases compares even in the slightest to the glorious surprise of remembering who you are. Isn't that awesome? That remembering who you are is a glorious surprise. You know, as you remember who you are. Notice it didn't say become who you are. It says as you remember who you are. As you remember who you are. That is the greatest, most glorious surprise you will ever experience. It's going to be a surprise because you think you know who you are. But as long as you are afraid, and as long as you doubt, and as long as your mind is dominated by fear, and as long as you still experience a lot of fear and guilt in your life, you don't remember yet who you are. You're working on it. You're working on it. And it says, so let all your learning and all your efforts be directed towards this one great final surprise. So that is what all of our efforts and all of our abilities should be directed to, is remembering who we are. And it says, and when you remember who you are, then you will not be content to be delayed by the little abilities that may come to you on the way. Okay. So apparently, until we remember who we are, we might be content to be delayed by the little abilities that we develop. For instance, the development of psychic abilities. Okay? We may be tempted to go, wow, that's really cool. I'm quite special. I'm really impressed with myself. I've got the psychic abilities that I've developed. Well, that's pretty awesome. I'm pretty impressed with myself. That's what it means to be delayed by the smaller, littler abilities that we develop within ourselves as our awareness increases. I love that. So, but the ultimate is to remember who you are. That's the ultimate ability, okay? And you won't be delayed by the smaller ones once you remember who you are. All right. Questions or comments on that?
Well, I'm just wondering if the example of Edgar Casey is an example of where he used his abilities. He claims to have used his abilities as an act of service to mankind, but he overdid it to the point where he burned himself out, and so I'm wondering if that is maybe a case of delaying.
A good example.
Delaying the greater learning of who he is by diverting his attention for all that lifetime in that direction.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a great example. Edgar Casey being somebody who allowed his psychic abilities to delay him in experiencing the glorious surprise of remembering who he is. And there's lots of people who have developed psychic abilities, right, but got delayed, got held back in the seeming specialness, in the seeming startlingness, and the specialness of their psychic abilities. And you could say that about lots of other abilities that we develop as our awareness increases.
Another one might be prodigal child. Who decides to spend his lifetime mastering the piano even more than he did in the previous lifetime.
That's exactly right. Exactly. And so anything any use of your learning and all your efforts, anything that you are directing your learning abilities and your learning efforts into that is not remembering who you are, then that's then you're using your abilities to delay you from the glorious surprise of remembering who you are, right? So beautiful. Okay. And so it's a good thing for us as teachers and healers to remember, because as we develop our awareness, like you do through A Course in Miracles, you are developing your awareness. You are increasing your awareness. That's what we're doing in A Course in Miracles. We're increasing our awareness. I'm aware that I didn't create myself, and have an increasing in awareness of what did create me and how it created me to be. My awareness is increasing of who and what I am. And as my awareness increases, so do my abilities. So do I develop abilities that seem quite startling to me. And that's very fun. And that's very cool. That's very awesome. And that's beautiful. But what he's talking about here is we have a temptation to get delayed, and to delay ourselves in how cool those abilities are that we're developing, forgetting what the big picture and what the ultimate goal is. So, yes.
We just did a class recently on all pleasure and all pain is the same thing.
Yeah.
Which is a distraction from us learning our true self, we're distracted with pleasure or we're distracted with pain. Putting all of our energy into either one for the purpose of not knowing ourselves.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. Greg is saying that the other thing that we use to delay ourselves from the glorious surprise of remembering who we are is pleasure and pain. That those are the two key defenses that we use to delay us in remembering who we are. And remembering who you are, according to this, is the most glorious surprise. Right? All right, beautiful. Hi, sweetie. Hello, hi, honey. How's it going? Just checking in. Okay. Hello.
Hello there.
Welcome. Good to see you, dear.
I've been meaning to come for a long time.
Come on down. Do you need a book?
Yes.
Okay, come grab one. Come grab one. I'd come down and get it, but I don't know if I can get back up in my chair. My little perch. Come here, sweetie. Good to see you. Good to see you. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Grab a book. We're in the teacher's manual. Hi, Trisha. I love it. Sorry, Trisha, I can't read that far right now. So we are in the teacher's manual, question number 25.
Okay.
And welcome to you. Welcome to your first Course in Miracles class. Yeah, later we sacrifice the virgin. You did it, so hi, sweetie. Welcome. Actually, if you want a book, there's a book right here.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Okay. And strangely, we are talking about psychic abilities. Isn't that funny?
Perfect.
You got some of those?
I do.
You do? Yeah, I know you do. I remember we had that conversation. And this is the title of this section is called Are quote psychic powers desirable? Is it desirable to have psychic abilities? Okay. Beautiful. Greg will help you find it. You look beautiful. Very colorful. No worries. You're right on time. Yes, you're right on time.
Yes.
And hi, Trisha. Lovely to see you. Hi, everybody
Yeah,
online.
I'm not finding it.
Okay. All
I thought
right.
it would be in the content. What number did you think?
Question number 25. Yes, doesn't have it in there.
Oh.
Okay. All right.
That was
So I
not
was
me.
saying, I'll just go back over paragraph 1 a bit, review it, since you guys just came in. So we're talking. There's a question. The teacher's manual is 29 questions that the author of the course knows that you're going to come up with if you're studying A Course in Miracles. It knows that you're going to be like, what's up with psychic abilities? Like, what is up with that? And so this is one of the questions that it knows that's going to come up for students of A Course in Miracles, right? And A Course in Miracles is a curriculum. So, we're studying a curriculum, and as a student of it, questions come up, and one of them is, are psychic powers desirable? And so I'll just reread it real quick, and it says, the answer to this question is much like the preceding one. There are, of course, no unnatural powers. Like, oh, that's a natural power? Oh, that's an unnatural power. There's no unnatural powers. And it is obviously merely an appeal to magic to make up a power that doesn't exist. It is equally obvious, however, that each individual has many abilities of which they are unaware. Did it say everybody? Did it say each, or did it say some? Did it say most? It said each. It said everybody has many abilities of which they are unaware. Okay? So just because you're like, well, I don't have psychic abilities, that don't mean you don't have psychic abilities. That just means you don't know you have psychic abilities. And a bunch of other abilities that you have that you're unaware of. Okay? So, then it says, that's what you need to know. It says that as your awareness increases, you may well develop abilities that seem quite startling to you. So that's just natural. That's how it goes. As your awareness about who you are, what created you, what's reality, as your awareness increases, you may well develop abilities that seem quite startling to you. Like, how did that happen? How did I know that? How did they know? How did I know that? how did that come to me like that? Okay? You may well develop abilities that seem quite startling to you, and that's awesome, yet nothing you can do can compare even in the slightest with the glorious surprise of remembering who you are. So no matter how startling and amazing and cool the abilities you develop are, they don't ever even compare to the glorious surprise of remembering who you are. Isn't that awesome? So it says, so let all your learning and all your efforts be directed toward this one great final surprise of remembering who you are, and then you won't be content to be delayed by the little surprises, the little abilities that may come to you on the way. So the ultimate accomplishment is not some super cool psychic abilities or any other abilities that come to you, okay? That's awesome, and that's cool, and that's natural, that's normal as your awareness increases of who you are and what the nature of reality is. But no matter what abilities you develop, this doesn't even compare in the slightest to the glorious surprise of remembering who you are as a spirit, who you are as a deathless, timeless spirit who's just wearing their body like a suit of clothes for a little while. That's the glorious surprise. That's who we really are. A limitless, deathless, glorious, beautiful, loving, and lovable spirit who's just wearing a body for a hot minute. Okay? That's who we really are. And we may think we know who we are, but according to this, it's going to be a glorious surprise, even if you think you know. And one of my side areas of study has been people's experience of near-death experiences. That's one of my favorite topics of study. And no matter how spiritual or aware or enlightened these people are, when they leave their body and are pronounced dead, every single one of them will tell you it was a glorious surprise. They were like, it was literally, they come back and they say, when they were resuscitated, I can't describe it. I cannot describe it. It was the ultimate surprise. Meaning nothing you're experiencing right here, right now, no matter how amazing it is, can even compare to the experience of remembering who you are. And the good news is you don't have to die to have that surprise. You can have that awareness. Your awareness can increase to experience that glorious surprise of remembering who you are. So that's, according to A Course in Miracles, what enlightenment is. It's not something you gain. It's not something you get. It's not something you accomplish. It's not something you work to. It's something you remember. Oh, I remember. That's what enlightenment is. It's not something you accomplish. It's not something you attain. It's not something you get. It's not something you work for. It's something you remember. Isn't that beautiful? That which means it's already in your awareness. It's already in your mind somewhere. It's already in there somewhere. Just waiting for you to go, what? I thought I knew, but whoa, I didn't know. And that's awesome. That's great. I don't care. All right. Now it says, so instead of putting your learning efforts into developing some cool abilities like psychic abilities, don't worry about that. Just focus on remembering who you are, and then all these awesome, amazing, super cool abilities come with it. Because remember, what does it say? You may develop abilities that are startling to you as your awareness increases. So that's our goal here, to increase our awareness. Who am I? What's the nature of reality? What's really going on here? What was I created to be? What's the nature of reality? Focus on that. Let all your learning and all your efforts be directed toward that one great final surprise, and then you won't be content to be delayed by the cool, smaller things that may come to you along the way. All right. Questions or comments on that? Hi, Matt. Beautiful. Oh, Matt says, I died once. Can confirm. All right, we got one confirmation from somebody who died and returned. Thank you, Matt. All right, confirmation. Yes, any question or comment?
I had someone do that to me.
You had someone do that to you?
Yeah.
Oh, awesome. And who did what to you?
He passed away and came back.
And then told you what they experienced? That's awesome. Beautiful. So you can confirm as well. Yeah, beautiful. Okay. I love it. And it's good. It's a
Was
good.
it a glorious experience?
Did they report it being a
The
glorious?
smile that he had was unspeakable.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Unspeakable. Indescribable.
And then he looked
Unspeakable.
at me and he says, "Okay, I'm ready to go."
Oh, I love it. That's beautiful. That's absolutely. Yeah. Everybody I know and everybody I've ever whose story I've ever read came back with no fear of death.
Yeah.
They don't have that cured them, and that's why I studied. That's why I always studied the near-death experience stories, because I used to have a death phobia when I was a kid. I was terrified of death, and if I saw a hearse, I would cover my eyes. I had a death phobia, and so my higher self had me start studying thousands of near-death experience stories. And not only did it cure me of my death phobia, but it also reminded me, oh, that's why we're here. Oh, right. That's why we're here. It just explained everything. It's like, that's the goal of living here. That's what you're supposed to be. Because when people come back after they have died and they've been resuscitated, they come back remembering the only thing of real value here. The only thing of real value to do here or be here or have here, they come back remembering. It's all about not what you have, not what you do, not who you know. It's all about how you love. That's all it's about. That's it. The quality of how you love. You know, did you love or did you not? You know, that's it. And then what you experience here, what you experience after this is all dependent on that. Right? And so it gave me that perspective that I was able to put everything in perspective and remember what's really valuable here, what to focus on, what not to focus on. Okay? So it was one of my favorite stories was Daniel Brinkley, and he was a hired mercenary in the military in Vietnam. Like he was a hired killer. Okay, and he was known as the town a-hole. Okay? That's how he was known. Everybody knew that he was mean and angry, and he was known as a town a-hole. And he was talking on the phone one day, and this is back in the days of the wall phone, and the lightning struck the line, and it killed him, melted his shoes to the floor, killed him. And after he passed, then he goes to the other side, and he gets to experience every single thing that he ever did or thought negative to every single person in his life, and how it went down the line for each person to the people in their life. He saw the effects of all of his unloving actions and thoughts and choices on that person, and then splintered off to the people in their life. And then he was resuscitated. And now he runs hospice centers all over the world where people can die in the most loving, compassionate way, where they do their mental, mind, soul forgiveness healing before they die. Yeah. So, it's a great experience of when you leave your body and you die, you have that glorious surprise of remembering who you are and also what it's all about here, So, beautiful. All right.
I'd like to comment also
Yes.
how powerful reminder it is for me that when we truly remember who we are, that helps me to then anchor into my co-creativity, my power,
Yes.
so that I can be showing up more in the place of love and service.
Exactly.
And truly just anchoring in, truly knowing my true self really
Yes.
helps to anchor into that truth.
Absolutely. When you don't know who you are, you waste a lot of time and energy on fear and guilt and busyness. You know, you waste so much of your energy, but when you remember who you are as only spirit, only love, now you're not going to waste your time. Now you're not going to waste your energy on things that aren't real, that aren't true, that don't mean anything. Now your efforts are all streamlined and effective and powerful, you know. So when you remember who you are. And when you don't know who you are, you're just going to be dominated by fear and anger and guilt. And just be doing a lot of nothing. A lot of nothing that seems like something.
Just treading.
Yes, just treading water, a lot of distraction, you know, and then you get to the end of your life and you're like, what was it all for? What was that all about, you know?
Yep.
So, beautiful. Thanks, Kate, for sharing that.
Yeah.
Okay, paragraph 2. Certainly, there are many, quote, psychic powers that are clearly in line with this course. Why? Because communication is not limited to the small range of channels the world recognizes. I'll say that again. Communication is not limited to the small range of channels the world recognizes.
There are portals.
Yeah. What'd you say?
There are portals.
Yes, exactly. And you know, the world recognizes the range of channels like, you know, words I speak, bodies, right? You know, those are channels of communication the world recognizes. I call you on the phone, I speak words with my mouth and my body to your ears. Those are channels of communication the world recognizes, but communication is not limited to the small range of channels. What all the world recognizes is a small range of channels of communication. Okay? It says, and if communication were limited to the small range of channels the world recognizes, then there would be little point in trying to teach liberation. Okay? If the only channel for communication were the body, forget it. There's no way that we could have that increase in our awareness and have communication with something beyond our bodies or others beyond our range of seeing them. Okay? He says, now, it would be impossible to teach liberation, to teach freedom, if communication is limited to the range that the world recognizes. It says, the limits that the world places on communication are the chief barrier to the direct experience of the healing spirit, whose presence is always there and whose voice is available but for the hearing. Okay, interesting. So what is the chief barrier to direct experience of the voice of the Spirit? What is it? The limits the world places on communication. Well, I can only talk to you if your body's sitting right here. I can only talk to you if I can reach you on the phone. Or I can only talk to you if your body's not dead, for instance, right? And if it says that's the chief barrier to direct experience of hearing the voice of truth, the voice of healing, the voice of spirit, is what? Is the limits that we place on communication. I can only talk to you if, you're in my same space, or if I can reach you on the phone, Or I can only talk to you if your body's not dead. No, those are limits we put on communication. And so the truth is that as we realize that, as we let the limits on communication be lifted that the world placed on communication, then we can have a direct experience of hearing the voice of spirit. Right now, we're like, I don't know if I really hear the voice of spirit very clearly. Sometimes, with very special circumstances, very special set of conditions, maybe I hear the voice of spirit, right? Only like when I'm meditating, it's very quiet, and I have my cup of coffee, and I'm not in nature or whatever. Okay, that's putting a big old limit on your ability to communicate with spirit. But when you realize that there are no real limits on communication, now you can hear the voice of spirit and your guides and your teachers and your angels and all the legions of helpers, of invisible helpers that there are for all of us, everywhere. Of course, the Miracle says there are legions of beings that don't have a body who are offering their services, their help, their ideas, their comfort to us. Legions, thousands. Can you imagine? You know, they're just waiting for you to say, help. I'd like to hear your advice. I could really use some right now. Okay? And so they are available, but we aren't hearing them because of all the limits on communication that we have put on communication ourselves. So, all right. So there really is no barrier on our direct experience of spirit, of the healing spirit. Of course, Miracles calls it the Holy Spirit, the healing spirit, the spirit of truth. And why is that? Why is there no limit on, why is there no barrier to communication with the spirit of healing, spirit of truth? Because the spirit of healing, the spirit of truth, its presence is always there, and its voice is always available, but for the hearing. Who knew that those voices, and that's the voice of spirit, the voice of truth and healing, is always available for the hearing. Always. Not sometimes. Not for these people, but not for these people. Not only under these conditions, but not under those conditions. Not for those people. For everybody. The voice of truth, the voice of healing is available for the hearing, for everybody, everywhere, all the time. We're the only ones putting a limit on the direct communication experience with spirit. That's what we're doing. And then we go, I'm so alone. I'm so on my own. I don't have any help. Why doesn't anybody want to help me? That was what's come next with us, you know. Not realizing you're surrounded by help. You're surrounded by beings who are wanting to talk to you and give you their perspective from beyond the body, which is a pretty amazing, limitless perspective. You want some real deal help when you're in a jam? Get somebody who's got some perspective from beyond the body. Now that's somebody who's going to give you some good and helpful advice. Somebody who's not limited to the perspective of the body anymore. You know, but we're limiting our communication, meaning we're limiting our ability to have that direct experience, to have that, to hear that voice. We're doing that. Okay, good to know. Good to know. And the only way you could ever feel alone, on your own, helpless, hopeless, without support is if you are shutting down that communication. That's the only way. It can never be that you are without help, without support from a very high vantage point. You know, friends in high places, you know, it can never be that you are without friends in very high places who, compared to our awareness, seem like geniuses, you know, who make the geniuses we know of seem dull, okay? But we are doing that. So if you're ever feeling alone, on your own, hopeless, helpless, lack of support, remember, that's not true, that's not real, that's just you putting a limit on communication between you and the voice of spirit. All right, good to know. And it says, these limits on communication with your higher self, with spirit, these limits on communication are placed out of fear. Why? Why would I have fear to communicate with the voice of truth? Because without the limits of communication I place between me and spirit, the walls that surround all the separate places of the world would fall at the loving sound of spirit's voice. Oh, gosh, what? Without the limits on the communication between me and spirit, that I have placed out of my fear, I'm afraid. I'm afraid to hear the voice of spirit, my higher self, the legions of helpers that are there. I'm afraid to hear their voice. I'm afraid to receive their help, to hear their voice. So I limit the communication between me and spirit because I'm afraid, because part of me knows that without those barriers to communication I put there, then all the walls that surround all the separate places of the world would fall at the sound of the voice of spirit in my mind. Whew, dang. And that's why I'm afraid to hear the voice of spirit speaking to me, answering me, helping me, guiding me, comforting me, inspiring me, guiding me, directing me, healing me. I'm afraid to hear it because I know once you hear that voice, forget about it. Now all the walls that surround all the separate places of the world fall. Because now you know there is no separation. That's what you find out when you hear the voice of spirit and the voice of all the legions of guides and teachers and helpers. You hear their voice, you know there's no separation. You know you can communicate with every being, every soul, everywhere, anytime. You know it because you just experienced it. That's what people who died in the body, that's what they experience. And they all go, we're all one. That's what they all say, we're all one, you know. We say it like a cliche. They experience it, they know. All the walls that surround all the separate places of the world fall in their awareness, and they know there's no separation in creation. Because when you hear that voice. All right. So then it says, who transcends these communication limits in any way is merely becoming more natural. So whoever is becoming more psychic is becoming more natural. Whoever's becoming more psychic is becoming more natural. Okay? It's not like you're developing something special. I'm becoming more psychic. I'm so special. Okay? You're becoming more natural. So whoever transcends the limits on communication in any way is becoming more natural. Whoever transcends these communication limits in any way is doing nothing special. And that's because there is no magic in these accomplishments. There's no magic in accomplishing psychic ability. There's nothing special at all. You're just becoming more natural. Because there really is no separation anywhere, which means we can communicate with everyone and everything, everywhere, anytime. That's what it means to say there are no limits. That's what it means to say there's no separation. That's what it means to say we are one. So as you become more psychic, you're becoming more natural, nothing special, no magic, just becoming more natural.
And less afraid.
And less afraid. Okay? Fear comes when you feel disconnected from people. When you feel different from people and you feel disconnected from people because you're not communicating with people, that's when fear comes in. As soon as you are communicating with somebody, as soon as you feel connected to somebody, what happens to the fear? It just disappears. It just goes back to the nothingness from which it came, right? So you're becoming more natural, you're becoming less afraid. Like you said, you're becoming more creative, you're becoming more loving, and that's all just becoming more natural. You know, the Course in Miracles says that fear comes from the belief that we're different. Like, I can't trust you. We're different. You know, you may have a different agenda than me, or you may have a different purpose. I don't know. So if we're different, then Course in Miracles says that automatically we feel like we can't trust that person, right? But when we remember that we're not separate, and when we remember we can communicate with everyone, that we're in communication with everyone naturally, because that's what creation is. Creation created us all connected, like a spider web. You know, in a spider web, you seem to have all these distinct points in the spider web. But the truth is that you touch any part of that spider web, and the whole rest of that spider web vibrates. What does that mean? That means we're all connected. That means we're not separate. That's what that means. You know, and so the moment that communication happens, the fear goes away. All the walls that separated all the fearful places in the world, they fall down. So, you know, we all know how it goes. When you're feeling separate and afraid of somebody and you start to communicate, fear goes away. You realize you have a lot more in common than you realized. Okay? And the whole scam of the ego is that we're different, and that we need to be afraid of each other, and that we need to defend ourselves against each other, and that we need to fight against each other because we're different, and we need to defend our own because we're different. That's the whole scam. That's the whole cosmic scam that we have played upon ourselves. Okay. All right. So now, paragraph 3. The seemingly new abilities that may be gathered on the way can be very helpful. Given to the healing spirit and used under spirit's direction, these seemingly new abilities are valuable teaching aids. Okay? So, given to spirit, then your seemingly new psychic abilities are going to be very valuable teaching aids. Okay? If you're giving your seemingly new psychic abilities to the spirit of truth to use. So spirit, I see that I'm developing some seemingly new psychic abilities. It's really cool, it's really exciting. I'm gonna give it back to you, spirit, so I don't let it go to my head. You know, if you don't give those seemingly new abilities to spirit for useful love for everyone, then they're going to go to your head. You're going to use them to make you feel separate from others. I have something you don't have. Okay, now that ability is not going to be helpful. Now that ability is going to be used for more fear. Okay, so saying that as you develop these seemingly new abilities, the first thing you want to do with them is give them to spirit. Go, spirit, look, I'm having all these new psychic abilities. You take it. You use it for me. I don't know how to use them for good for everybody. I don't. I just use them to make myself feel special. I just use them to make me feel separate, special, okay? And which is not helpful and not. It doesn't have a good outcome, a helpful outcome. Now, if you give those seemingly new psychic abilities to spirit, then they will become valuable teaching aids. To this, the question of how these psychic abilities arise is irrelevant. Doesn't matter how they arose. The only important consideration is how these seemingly new psychic abilities are used. That's all that matters, how you're going to use them. Now, if you take these seemingly new psychic abilities as ends in themselves, then no matter how you do that, it will delay your progress. Okay? So if you use it as like, ooh, this seemingly new psychic ability, ooh, all right, it's so cool. And you focus on them, you use them as ends in themselves. Like that's the goal. The goal is I become psychic. And then I become a psychic professional and I make a lot of money working as a psychic, right? Which is okay to do, but if you're, if you're using them as ends in themselves, it will delay your progress. Because remember, the development of psychic abilities, that's just natural. There's nothing special about that. That's just something that happens along the way as you're increasing your awareness. So it's not the goal, it's not the end that you become psychic and that you become special in your psychic abilities, you know. And there's lots of expressions of psychic abilities. There's psychic healings, there's psychic communication, there's channeling, there's all kinds of, you know, the writing, you know, is another way of using a psychic ability, okay? All right, hi Jerry. All right, so it says that the healing spirit is incapable of deception, which means spirit can use only genuine abilities, okay? So your higher self can only use an ability that's genuine. And your ability is only genuine if you're not taking it and using it as an end in itself. Okay? So, it says, so what is used for magic is useless to spirit. So if you're going to use it to make yourself special, to make yourself separate from others, you're using that ability for magic. And he says, and now your ability is useless to love. Now it's useless to love. Now love's like, you can't use it because you're trying to use it for yourself, to make yourself special, to set yourself apart. instead of giving that ability to Spirit to use in whatever way Spirit deems helpful to whoever needs it.
You can see how a lot of ministries got derailed.
You can see how a lot of ministry has gotten derailed. That is for sure. Exactly. You know, you see a lot of ministers who claim to be able to hear the voice of the Spirit, but you can see that they're using that ability for their own glorification. You know, they're not going, I can hear the voice of the Spirit, and so can you, and you, and you, and you, and you, and you, and you. They're not saying that. They're not letting that ability be used by Spirit to remind everybody that everybody has psychic abilities, because everybody is naturally in communication with all of creation, right? And so what happens to those ministers that are using their ability to, their seeming psychic ability for ends in themselves? What happens to those ministers?
Well, they were using magic, so they disappeared.
And so they were using magic, so they disappeared. Exactly. Exactly. And whatever that healing power they had at the beginning, then it seems to diminish. It seems to diminish.
Whatever happened to that Danny Hand? He would predict the end of the world every year. You'd have all the media there and everything, because it would never end.
Yes, exactly. There's a lot of examples of ministers, teachers, healers. A lot of teachers and healers. You know, a lot of powerful psychics. You know, we were talking about Casey before you guys came in. A lot of people who had seemingly unusual psychic abilities, but they forgot what they're really for. And they used them as ends in themselves. They forgot that that's nothing. That psychic ability, that's nothing compared to remembering who you are. And so they forgot what they were really for, and they didn't remember or didn't hear to give them to Spirit to use for the good of all, instead of the glorification of self. And so, and what did it say? It said, Spirit is incapable of deception, which means Spirit can only use genuine abilities. So once your abilities are used just for you and your specialness, your grandiosity, now Spirit can't use your abilities.
Wow.
Now Spirit can't use them, you know? So you may as well not even have them. And then they tend to diminish. Okay? And that's when a lot of ministers, teachers, and healers turn to magic. They turn to magic, right? Because their ability seems to diminish in power because they were using it for themselves. Okay. All right. So it says this. So it says, nor does the value of your psychic abilities lie in proving anything, like achievements from the past, like unusual attunement with the quote unseen or quote special favors from God. God gives no special favors. What does that mean? That means no one has any powers that are not available to everyone. God gives no special favors. So he says, so if somebody's using their psychic abilities to prove something, like my great achievements from the past, or I have an unusual attunement with the unseen, or I have special favor from God, then you do not understand your ability. You know, that is, he said, you don't understand your ability. You don't understand your psychic ability. You're going to misuse it. Because God doesn't give special favors to anyone. Because God says, and no one has any powers that are not available to everyone. God doesn't give special powers to you, but not to you, you to not to you, you to not you. God doesn't work like that. You know? Yes.
I was going to say, even God never asked us to do anything that God, in God's own essence, doesn't do. God is unlimited in trying to get us to see that we are unlimited, not different from God. And therefore trying to get us to see that's how it works. Now you go out and multiply the same. Show others that you are unlimited. But that doesn't mean you're elevated over others. Encourage them to open their eyes to see they are like you, unlimited themselves.
Yes.
Because you learn that from your Creator.
Exactly. That's exactly right. So anything that somebody anything that you seem to have that other people don't seem to have, you don't understand what you have, and you don't understand God. God's given the same powers to everyone. Okay? I love that. God doesn't give special favors, and which means no one has any powers that are not available to everyone. And only by tricks of magic are special powers, quote, demonstrated. Okay? So if I have a special power that I'm going to demonstrate, you're about to do magic. Not a miracle, but magic. Because there are no special powers. There are no special powers. There are just some who've allowed those abilities to be developed as their awareness of who they are increased. That's it. That's the only seeming difference between some people who seem to have some psychic powers and some people who seem to not have them. Everybody has them.
That specialness, seeming specialness, is really only relevant in time. So the point is that we all have the same abilities as everybody else, but they may not manifest in time in the same place and in the same way.
Exactly. That's exactly right. We all have the same abilities. The only difference is that I may be deciding to develop them now or not, and they may not be choosing to develop those abilities. You know, but the point being is that they should be side effects. They're just, psychic abilities are side effects if they're real. If they're real and useful, they're side effects of your increasing awareness of who and what you are, which is the same as saying what everybody else is too. Awareness is like, we're all the same. We've all been created the same with the exact same stuff and the exact same powers and the exact same abilities and potential, all of us. That's what it means to become enlightened or to increase your awareness. That's what it means. Oh, we all come from the same source and we all were created the same, we have the same. Oh, okay, that's it. Okay. It's not some big, go to the top of the mountain enlightenment. It's just an increasing awareness that we all have the same. We're all given the same.
So what I'm hearing is our community as a whole seems to be big in, from what I've noticed, in astrology, for example. And for us to use astrology correctly, you're a Capricorn, you're a Libra, you're a Scorpio, you're a this. Isn't to use it according to what we're hearing tonight would be, well, my sign is to just demonstrate one of the 12 signs of all the signs that we all incorporate together. I'm just showing what you have. Like Matt said, that perhaps you have failed to realize yet, you have these same attributes.
Yes.
Not just the Capricorns or the Taurus or the whatever.
Right.
Because then you're falling back into specialness.
Right.
I have
special favors.
I have a special favor because of the time of the year I was born.
Right.
And you don't have that.
Right.
So then again, we're back to magic tricks.
Right. Exactly. If we're trying to demonstrate something that I have that you don't have, that's magic.
Yeah.
That's magic. And that's not really helpful. Because the only thing that's helpful is remembering who and what you are, and also remembering that that's what everybody else is. Okay?
One of the delay tactics.
And it's a delay tactic. It's a delay tactic. Okay. Beautiful. Any other questions or comments? Okay, how are you guys doing online? All right, beautiful. All right. So, it's paragraph 4. Nothing that is genuine is used. Wait, I read that. Wait, no.
Did you?
No, I didn't. Okay. Nothing that is genuine is used to deceive. And the healing spirit is incapable of deception. Spirit can use only genuine abilities. What is used for magic is useless to him. But what spirit uses cannot be used for magic. Now, there is, however, a particular appeal in unusual abilities that can be curiously tempting. Okay? That's for sure. I'll read that again. There is, however, a particular appeal in unusual abilities that can be curiously tempting. Okay? I have this unusual ability, and I'm curiously tempted to use it for specialness. Okay?
Yeah, because
I have something that seems like I can do that other people can't do.
if I can read minds, and 99% of people out there don't seem to be able to do that, then that puts me in a pretty special camp.
That's right, and that's a great example. If I have so-called special ability to read minds, or if I have this seemingly special ability to see through walls, you know, that is an unusual ability that can be curiously tempting. If you have an unusual ability, like you said, that most people don't have, it can be curiously tempting.
To see through clothing like Superman.
Curiously tempting. We would all be curiously tempted to use that toward its own ends. Exactly. Come on, Spirit, can I use it for a little bit of magic? Come on, just for tonight, just for Saturday night. Come on. So it's like, Anna. You know that song can get you in trouble. All right. So it says, but if you have an unusual ability, that is a strength which Spirit wants and needs. So Spirit needs that. Spirit wants your psychic, your unusual ability. That's a strength that Spirit wants and needs. Yet your ego sees in these same unusual abilities, these same strengths, an opportunity to glorify itself. So, whereas Spirit sees your unusual psychic ability as a strength it needs and wants to use to help others, your ego is like, this is an opportunity to glorify myself. You know, how popular will I be? How much money could I make? You know, if I used this unusual ability for myself, right? Curiously tempting. And strengths turned to weaknesses are tragedy indeed. If you have an unusual ability, you got a strength that Spirit wants and needs. But if you turn that strength into a weakness, then that's a tragedy. Spirit's like, oh, you have such a gift. You have such a great gift that we could use for so many people all around the world. We could use this, oh my God, to liberate so many souls. And then you're like, nope, I'm going to use it to glorify myself. And the angels go, you know, the angels are like, okay, another lifetime. Another lifetime, you know. All right, you really want to do another lifetime? Whatever.
That's like my cousin, she's very intuitive, but she's very private about her gift.
Yes.
She doesn't even, I mean, half the family doesn't even know.
Gotcha. Yes. So, you know, it's a very good, it's protective. It's telling us what to do with our unusual abilities. You know, if you use them, if you give them to Spirit for Spirit's use, which is a loving use for all, in reminding everybody we all have the same, then it's going to only increase in power and good. It's only going to increase the good in your life and in your world. You know, but if you use, so it's reminding us to give those unusual abilities, whatever they are, to your Spirit to use so you don't hurt yourself with them. It's a good reminder what to do with it. When you become aware of it, what to do with it. So that it becomes a strength that Spirit uses for the good of everyone, instead of how you sabotage yourself.
Well, and I just want to point out that even though we're talking about psychic abilities here, I think that
Yes.
recommendation
Yes.
applies to any of our abilities, including the ones we are aware of.
Exactly.
And that maybe we've been developing for this entire
Exactly.
lifetime.
Exactly.
Just turn them over to the Holy Spirit. Please use these
Abilities.
abilities
Exactly.
to the salvation plan.
Exactly. I mean, first it starts off talking about psychic abilities, then it says unusual abilities, right? So it is. It's just saying anything that you have an ability in, anything that you have a natural ability, and all of us have something that is a natural ability that to others is unusual. How did you do that? How do you know things like that? How are you able to do that? We all have unusual abilities that can be, when given to Spirit, can be, Spirit can use to free many souls. Okay, so it's all those abilities, right? Okay. So what is your unusual ability? What is your unusual ability that people marvel at? Or they go, how do you do that? That's so amazing. How do you do that? Right? Whatever that is, those are your strengths, and those are strengths that Spirit needs and Spirit wants. Did you know that Spirit wants and needs your strengths, your unusual abilities? Okay? Isn't that good to know that you're wanted like that? It makes me think of that poster where Uncle Sam wants you. It's like, Spirit wants you. Okay. And let me tell you, when you are letting Spirit use your unusual abilities, life is awesome. Spirit, it's like you get a light, whereas when Spirit is using your unusual abilities for the good of others, man, your life becomes the coolest, most fun, abundant, safe, fun, joyous adventure that you would have never in a million years even dreamed of asking or fantasizing about. When you give your unusual abilities to Spirit to use for the good of others. Instead of being like, how can I cash in on this? I need to get myself an agent. Well, you already have an agent. Agent Spirit. It was like, I see your unusual ability. I think it's amazing. That's an incredible strength you've got right there. I can really use that for the awakening of mankind. You willing? Will you give it to me? You won't use it, the only thing is you can't use it for your own glory. You can't use it to glorify yourself. You can't use it to tell yourself that you have something that other people don't have. You can't use it like that. You got to give it to me. Let me direct how they're used. That's the hard part. That's the hard part. Because what does it say? There is an appeal in our unusual abilities that can be curiously tempting. To use it to get something for yourself, to glorify yourself, to set yourself apart and above others. Curiously tempting. Yes, I understand. Okay. So, then it says, yet what is not given to Spirit must be given to weakness, because what is withheld from love is given to fear, and so it will be fearful in consequence. So, what you don't give to love, what you don't give to Spirit, is you're giving to weakness. If you don't give it to Spirit, if you don't give it to love, you're giving it to Spirit, you're giving it to your weakness. And then what happens, there's going to be a fearful consequence. It's not going to be a happy ending. You're going to be like, look at me, I'm so special, it's so great, I have something everybody doesn't have. And the next thing you know, people are coming after you with pitchforks. Right? People are going, oh, who do you think you are? Oh, well, I'm going to compete with you and take you down because you just set yourself apart and above. Oh, yeah? Well, we're going to equalize it. So when you use your strengths for you, and you set yourself apart in your mind, then you are calling forth the competitiveness of others. So anybody who feels little, when they meet you, they're going to be like, oh, it's on. I'm going to knock you down a few pegs, right? That's what happens when you give your gifts to your weakness, to your specialness, then other people who feel little are going to look to cut you down so they can feel bigger. See how that goes? I remember when I first got into the course, and I was raised Jewish, and I remember being in synagogue, and I was new to the course, but I got the whole, like, you know, whatever I use for myself to set myself apart and above, to make myself special, is going to ultimately be my weakness. I had gotten that much. And I was sitting there in synagogue, and I was like, oh, no wonder the Jews have been so persecuted all through history. I mean, their name is the chosen ones.
Right.
That's pretty darn special.
Total separate, yeah.
That's total separation. That's total specialness. That's total being tempted by special abilities, you know. They were in communication with God, with special ability that they, used for the glorification of themselves and separation and a fearful consequence. Every age they're persecuted. Every age they're persecuted.
And still, every day.
And still. And any person or any people that has set themselves apart and given their unusual abilities to weakness or to separateness or specialness, there has been a fearful consequence to that, right? Because what started out as an unusual ability that is a strength that Spirit could have used for the good of all humanity, turned into a weakness, turned into something that was used against them. And that's what we're doing. We're doing it with our unusual abilities. We're doing it in our relationships. That's what we're doing. We're using our strengths for specialness and weakness instead of giving our strengths and our special abilities to Spirit to use for the good of all, to demonstrate to all that we all have the same. We all have the same power. We all have the same ability. All right. Then paragraph 5 says, even those who no longer value the material things of the world may still be deceived by, quote, psychic powers. Why is that? Why is that even though you don't value the material things of the world anymore, you may still be deceived by psychic powers? Why is that? That's because as investment has been withdrawn from the world's material gifts, the ego has been seriously threatened. And the ego may still be strong enough to rally under this new temptation to win back strength by guile. Now, many people with psychic abilities have not seen through the ego's defenses here, although they are not particularly subtle. Even though what the ego's up to is quite obvious, it's not subtle at all, many people are deceived by it. So it's like this, well, I don't value the things of the world anymore, but I'm still deceived by psychic abilities. So I don't value things of the world, but I do value my psychic abilities and what they can do for me. Okay? So many people have been deceived like that. It says yet, because given a remaining wish to be deceived, deception is made easy. Now that you have a remaining wish to be deceived, now the so-called power is no longer a genuine ability, and so your unusual ability cannot be used dependably. That's what happens when you're deceived by psychic abilities. Now your psychic ability cannot be used dependably. Now it is no longer a genuine ability. And we've seen that a million times in psychics, great psychics, or great, people who have great abilities, throughout time. So, and it is almost inevitable that unless the person changes their mind about their psychic abilities' purpose, they will bolster their psychic abilities' powers, uncertainties with increasing deception. So unless you change your mind about the purpose of the power, then your power will decrease. Does that make sense? You know, we all have powers, we all have abilities that we're unaware of. And until we are clear about their purpose, which is to show others that they too have the same power, then that unusual ability or psychic power will decrease in its power. It will no longer be a genuine ability. Okay? All right. And that's because, and then we're going into the last paragraph. Okay, everybody hanging in there? Take a breath. Deep topic tonight, huh? Anybody guess that we'd be talking about psychic abilities tonight? Welcome to your first course class. We're going to talk about psychic abilities. Yeah, and I remember when we first met, I remember you telling me about some of your psychic abilities. Yeah, I remember that. What a coincidence. All right, so the last paragraph. Any ability that anyone develops has the potentiality for good. And to this there is no exception. And the more unusual and the more unexpected the power, the greater its potential usefulness for good. The freedom of mankind has need of all abilities. For what the world would destroy, the healing spirit would restore. Now, so-called psychic abilities have been used to call upon the devil. Okay? Well, what does that mean, using psychic abilities to call upon the devil? It just merely means that they are using psychic abilities to strengthen the ego. That's it. I'm going to use my psychic abilities to strengthen fear. Yay! Awesome. Look at me. Okay. To use psychic abilities to call on the devil just means to use your psychic abilities to strengthen fear in the world. That's all it means. Okay. Yet, here in your psychic abilities is also a great channel of hope and healing in spirit service. And so, those who have developed psychic powers have simply let some of the limitations they laid upon their minds be lifted. That's all that happened. I let some of the limitations I laid upon my own mind be lifted. And that is why that's how I developed psychic powers. And it can be but further limitations that I lay upon myself if I utilize my increased freedom for greater imprisonment. Spirit needs these psychic gifts. And those who offer their psychic abilities or their unusual abilities to spirit and spirit alone, they go with love's gratitude upon their hearts and love's loving sight not far behind. That's what happens to you. And we heard about the fearful consequence of using your abilities for specialness, and then here's the consequence of giving your unusual abilities, whatever they are, to spirit to use for the liberation and healing of mankind. You know, what happens? Love's gratitude is on your heart, and then love's vision is not far behind. Gratitude fills your heart, and vision, and you have vision. Love's vision fills your eyes. Okay? And how cool is that? How does life feel? What does life feel like when gratitude has filled your heart and gratitude is flooding your body and you have vision that can see? Man, life's really cool after that. Life is really cool when you got a heart full of gratitude and you got real vision. You can really see. You know, wherever you go, people are like, you know, people are grateful. People are healed. People are helped. People feel grateful that you're there. People feel blessed by your presence wherever you go. Because gratitude is filling your heart and vision is filling your eyes. Beautiful. That's happy consequences. Okay, questions, comments?
Awesome insights.
Awesome insights. Can't go wrong with A Course in Miracles.
Well, and I just want to generalize this this is not the first time we've heard the advice from the Course to give it to the Holy Spirit. give our special relationships to the Holy Spirit.
Yes.
Special relationships, whether that's with a dog or a
Or
person
your abilities.
or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
And to offer our willingness to do meditations to join with the Holy Spirit and ask, what would you have me do? What would you have me say? What would you, et cetera, et cetera. That willingness to go to the Holy Spirit to receive guidance and use X, Y, Z for the salvation of the world. This is just another
That's another
case,
expression
another-
of that. Exactly. Here, that when what you give to Spirit for the good of all is what turns your life into a garden. You know, a gloriously safe and happy, fun adventure, and a beautiful garden of abundance for all. You know, and so whether you give your relationships to Spirit to use, whether you give your body, your special abilities, your unusual abilities, your job, whatever it is that you have, when you give it to Spirit to use for the good of all, not only is it used for the good of all, but it turns your life into a beautiful, abundant garden. Exactly. And so that's what the curriculum is. Give it all to Spirit. Who knows how to use it for good? We don't. We only know how to use things for our own glorification, our own specialness. I'm trying to get something from me. Me. I'm going to get something from me. Okay? You know, that's all we do with our abilities and our, you know, what we have. We're using it for ourselves, and that's what makes it hurtful and harmful to us. That's what turns our relationships into hurtful, harmful things for us. That's what turns our bodies into something that's hurtful and harmful to us. We're using it for ourselves. What can I get out of this situation? How can I glorify myself and my specialness? That's what turns a body or a relationship or a job or an unusual ability into something that's not helpful and that has a fearful consequence to it. And that everything we give to Spirit to use for good for all is, you know, Spirit uses it to liberate the world and us as well. Thank you for reminding us of that. That this is just another expression of what the whole course is talking about how to have your whole life and everything in your life transformed into something that's the good, the beautiful, and the holy. Something that's helpful for everybody, and you as well. Thank you for saying that. Any other questions or comments? All right. Well, shall we do something crazy, radical, and actually do what it said to do? I know that's crazy to actually do what it said to do in the class, but what the heck. All right, so we're going to do the integration meditation, where we're going to take these ideas and we're going to use them. Of course, the Miracle says that only in using them will you see that they're true. And so we're going to use them so that we can receive the happy consequences of using them, so that we can get the miracles that come as a result of using these ideas. So I want you to take a breath, close your eyes. Beautiful. Now, I want you to look within, and I want you to ask yourself, what are my unusual abilities? What unusual abilities do I have? You know, those abilities that people marvel at. Abilities that I know I have, but maybe I'm shy to express. Maybe people don't know about them. What something that I know how to do and do well, even though I may not have ever been taught how to do it. And I don't even know how I know how to do it. What is that? Everybody, each individual has many abilities of which they are unaware. So we're going to acknowledge them. I have the unusual ability to fill in the blank. I have the unusual ability to fill in the blank. You have many abilities of which you are unaware. What are some other unusual abilities that you have? Now I want you to tell yourself, no matter how startling and amazing all these abilities that I have are, none of them compare even in the slightest to remembering who I am. Beautiful. Now I want you to do a brief inventory of how you have been using your unusual abilities. How have you been using them to make yourself, to separate yourself, set yourself apart from others? Maybe you have been hiding your abilities, thus making yourself feel separate from others. How have I been using my unusual abilities to make myself feel more separate from others? Angry with others. How have I been using my unusual abilities to make myself afraid and alone? Beautiful. Now I want you to give your unusual abilities, whatever they may be, to Spirit, the Spirit of love and truth. I want you to give them to the Spirit of love and truth. And ask that the Spirit of love and truth would use them for the liberation, the awakening, the healing of humanity, and the restoration of the earth. Spirit, I give you my ability to fill in the blank. Spirit, I give you my ability to fill in the blank. you to tell yourself, this unusual ability I have is natural. Everybody has this ability somewhere within them. This unusual ability is not special, it is natural. So I don't need to fear it. This unusual ability, this special ability I have is a natural. It's not special. And so I need not fear it. Beautiful. And to that we say amen. Take a breath. Open your eyes, yawn and stretch. And know that Spirit is grateful for your gift of your strength that Spirit can now use to heal the world. So good for you. Way to use your time on a Monday night or whenever you're watching this video. Awesome. Good work, guys. Thank you guys on Facebook for joining this Healing Circle. Thank you guys for coming out to the Miracle Center. Appreciate you all. See you next time I see you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Beautiful.